You are welcome to yet another episode of LFN What's Your Say? The leading listening show where we discuss important issues with important people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. Until today, it remains deeply unsettling and difficult to understand why R. Kelly, one of the most recognized R&B artists of our time, was charged with RICO, Mann Act violations, and even forced labor. None of these charges align with the facts of his case. It wasn't justice. It was a legal overreach, a strategy crafted not to pursue truth but to create a shocking narrative for public consumption. Let's be clear. If the authorities truly believed that R. Kelly slept with underage girls, then the justice system should have prosecuted him for that specific crime. Period. But instead of sticking to clear and prosecutable offenses, they decided to wrap these allegations under the blanket of something far more sinister. Racketeering. As if he were some underworld mafia boss. As if he were running a complex criminal syndicate involved in organized trafficking operations. The Mann Act and forced labor allegations only served to reinforce that illusion of guilt, none of which held up under fair legal scrutiny. This bundling of unrelated allegations wasn't accidental. It was strategic. It was designed to make the world believe that R. Kelly wasn't just a man accused of personal misconduct. The aim was to transform him into a villain of cinematic proportions. A kingpin. A trafficker. A danger to society at large. And the tragedy is many people believed it. They believed it not because the evidence proved it, but because the charges themselves sounded terrifying. The headlines wrote the verdict before the court even convened. Any educated person trained in law or not can see the glaring mismatch between the charges and the actual conduct alleged. This wasn't racketeering. This wasn't organized crime. There was no hierarchy, no enterprise, no web of corruption masterminded by R. Kelly. What we saw instead was a collection of personal relationships. Some controversial, others complicated, but none of them criminal in the context of RICO or the Mann Act. And yet somehow he was convicted. And that's where the confusion deepens. How can a man walk into court, present clear arguments, poke holes in every legal theory brought against him only to walk out convicted? It defies logic. It mocks the very idea of due process. Let's take a moment to reflect on the appeals. Particularly the New York appeal. Jennifer Bonjean, R. Kelly's attorney, didn't argue that R. Kelly was a saint. She didn't stand before the judges to claim that he'd never done anything wrong. She came to point out something far more important, that the government charged R. Kelly with crimes that did not apply to his actions. And that the framework used to prosecute him was fundamentally flawed. She dissected the RICO charges line by line. She explained how RICO was created to dismantle crime families, drug cartels, and mafia-style organizations, and not to target a single entertainer whose inner circle mostly consisted of personal staff, lovers and fans. RICO demands proof of an enterprise. Of collaboration toward a criminal end. And there was none. Then she turned to the Mann Act. This law, originally passed in the early 20th century, was meant to prevent the coercion of women across state lines for prostitution. But in R. Kelly's case, it was twisted to frame consensual relationships as criminal. There was no trafficking. There was no coercion. There was no force. Just adult women who willingly entered relationships, and then in some cases later expressed regret. As for the forced labor allegations, those were perhaps the most shocking of all. The idea that R. Kelly enslaved people is so extreme and so wildly inconsistent with the facts, that even one of the appeal judges in New York had to ask the government directly, "Where's the labor?" A telling question because no one could answer it. And yet, despite Bonjean's airtight arguments, despite the clear absurdity of the charges, the appeal court upheld the original ruling. That, more than anything, should raise serious concern about the integrity of the justice system in this case. How can legal professionals, trained in constitutional law and precedent, hear arguments that make complete sense, only to later pretend they never heard them? It's an embarrassment. A stain on the Department of Justice. And more than that, It's a betrayal of the fundamental promise of American law that everyone is entitled to a fair trial, judged solely on the facts and the laws as written and not on media hysteria, not on public outrage, not on stories designed to fit a cultural moment. R. Kelly's case was not treated like a legal proceeding. It was treated like a performance. The prosecution put on a show not because the facts demanded drama but because the public demanded a villain. They inflated the charges. They painted a caricature. And when the facts didn't quite fit, they rewrote the definitions. This wasn't a matter of guilt or innocence anymore. It was a matter of narrative, a matter of politics, and a matter of appeasing a culture hungry for someone to blame. And the most disturbing part? R. Kelly consistently won in the courtroom. Not in verdicts but in legal arguments. Bonjean time after time tore through the government's case with surgical precision. She wasn't out there denying every claim. She was focused on the law, on the framework, on the misuse of statutes like RICO and the Mann Act, laws that were never meant to apply to situations like this. So the question becomes, if the defense arguments were so strong, why the guilty verdicts? The answer might be more unsettling than the case itself. Because it suggests that the outcome was decided before the trial even began. That the jury consciously or subconsciously was influenced by a media environment saturated with half-truths and sensationalism. That the judges, perhaps pressured by politics or fearful of backlash, chose the path of least resistance. And what about the appeals court? What did they think? Why did they uphold a decision that legal minds across the board find baffling? We may never know. But one thing is certain, there is a dangerous precedent being set that if the public hates you enough, the government can rewrite the rulebook. That if the media paints you in a certain light, the courtroom will stop functioning like a court and begin acting like a stage. That's exactly what happened to R. Kelly. And it's time to call it what it is, a legal failure. A failure of justice. A failure of honesty and a failure of the very institutions that are meant to protect us. It's not about whether you like R. Kelly or not. It's not about defending his choices in life. It's about the fact that no one, no matter how controversial, deserves to be prosecuted under laws that don't apply, for crimes that don't exist or with outcomes that defy logic. If R. Kelly had committed crimes that fit the actual allegations, then he should be tried for those crimes. But to twist unrelated laws just to secure a conviction? That's not justice. That's a vendetta. That's propaganda. It's time we demand better from our justice system, not just for R. Kelly but for everyone who could be next. Because if the law can be bent this easily for him, it can be bent for anyone. So let the facts speak. Let the arguments stand. Let Bonjean's dismantling of the charges be heard not just in court transcripts but in public consciousness. And most of all, let the truth, however uncomfortable, be louder than the noise. Because justice, if it is to mean anything at all, must be based on truth. And in the case of R. Kelly, that truth has been buried under layers of fear, politics, and spectacle. But the truth is still there, and it's time we uncovered it. Thank you for watching today's video, a production of LFN Media, giving you another perspective of issues at hand. We make it our business to keep you updated with the truth amidst the cloud of lies the media wants you to believe. It is therefore important to subscribe to this channel, hit the bell icon and allow all notifications so that you don't miss out whenever we publish a new video.